What is your name? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Michelle Angelique Vann. I am 55 years old. I am a mother of two, a grandmother of one, and I have raised many other children. I have been a domestic violence advocate for the last 27 years, but the last 34 years of my life I have spent doing work that will help advocate for all people, no matter creed, race, religion, color, or anything. I spent most of my life taking care of other people.
When I say domestic violence, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Pain, embarrassment, shame, guilt, horror, and disrespect.
What was your first experience with domestic violence?
My first experience with domestic violence was when I was 4 years old. I was molested by a family friend. It lasted for a few months because I refused to continue on with it, and I refused to let that person continually touch me. I didn't like it, it didn't feel well, and I knew that it was wrong, but I didn't know how wrong it was.
Do you feel comfortable sharing a few stories on other experiences that you had with domestic violence?
Yes. I was married at 22. I married a man I had met at my church who we were friends, and our families were very well connected. I saw red flags in the beginning, but still decided to go through with the wedding. Even up to a couple days before the wedding, we both asked each other, is this what we wanted to do? And we both said yes, and we went on with it. A few weeks after that, it started to change. Things started to change, and I wasn't sure what it was at the time, but I had witnessed my mother go through domestic violence, and I was like, I will not let that happen in my home. We got married. We had my first child together in 95. And after that, things just started to change. He got sick, and it led to us both having affairs. And then one day, around 2000 or so, we were laying in bed. We were about to get up and get something to eat, and he jumped upon me, and he choked me. And my child walked in and seen it. And she called my mother, who called my sister. And the one thing that saved me from that night was that I reached over my shoulder and grabbed the lamp and hit him while my sister was coming up the steps and banged him in the back with a hammer. At that point, I knew that what this was, and I was not going to put up with it. I was also advocating at the time and was trying to just escape the things that were going on in my home. And after that, it just continued on with verbal abuse, mental abuse. And I kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody at first. I just dealt with it because I knew what it was, and I'm helping other people daily with it, but couldn't help myself. So I just sat in my own home, took care of my kids, and did what was required of me to do as a wife.
What was the last incident that gave you the courage to leave?
The last incident that gave me the courage to leave is when I was talking to one of my childhood friends, and my husband went outside and told this friend my childhood trauma, that I had been molested, and this is how I am the way that I am, and this is why I am the way that I am. And my childhood friend literally cursed my husband out, and I felt so ashamed and so embarrassed because he was the only person I had told before I even told my mother or told anybody what had happened to me. And I knew at that point, if this man could disrespect me and tell other people about my trauma, who else has he told, or who else knew about this trauma that I only shared with him and a few other people? So I decided that at this point, I need to do what I need to do. I shut down. I went into what I now know as depression, and we went to counseling. We went to numerous counseling with our pastor, other pastors, other professional counselors, and everyone kept saying the same thing. Just like, You have to talk it out. You have to do this, you have to do that. But no one knew that I was being abused because I didn't say it. They just kept thinking that we were having marital problems and that we should work through them together until I went to a counselor on my own that didn't know neither one of us. And the counselor stated that when you get the problem out of your house, you will be a whole lot better. And at that point, I went home and I asked my husband to leave.
How has this experience affected you?
It has affected me a lot. It has caused me after we got divorced in 2007. And even during that process, it was a lot of mental anguish because he wouldn't sign the divorce papers. He took the papers, and he just would not let me be. He had already moved on, already had somebody else. Dating for me was not really an option because I had not only just our daughter, but I had a handicapped son that I had to take care of, and I had to make sure it was okay. And so dating was just like crazy. I got into a lot of situations that didn't amount to anything. And it just caused me not to love myself. And I've always prided myself on loving myself and loving who I was and loving who I had become. And I'm a very religious person. So prayer and things like that for me just was the things that got me through. But I still was missing a lot of things. And until I had to actually deal with my childhood trauma, I couldn't really fully deal with my adult trauma. So it was just trauma compiled on top of trauma, one situation after the next.
What do you wish people understood about victims of domestic violence and their decisions?
I wish people understood that it's not easy. I want people to understand that it takes somebody up to 9 times to leave before they really decide that this is it and they want to go. It's also not easy to leave when you have children. And when you have more than one children or one child, it's even harder because most times you've been alienated from your family, your friends don't know what's going on, or they only heard one side of the story, and that story is not always the truth. It's always their side of the story, and you're made out to be even more of a victim because now you're being victimized. And so I want people to know that when people are coming to you and they're talking to you about their trauma and about the pain that they're experiencing, listen. Most of all, believe them. Don't ask them what's going on. Don't ask them why is it happening or what did you do. That's the worst thing you can ask a victim of domestic violence. What did you do? You don't do anything to cause domestic violence. It's not about what you did. It's about the other person and what they're doing and what they're experiencing. And I also will let them know that help is also available and that you have to decide yourself. No one can decide for you when it's time to go. You have to decide within your heart of hearts that it's time for you to leave. And if you have to leave and take the clothes on your back or a couple dollars that you may have, if that's what you need to do to leave, leave. You can't pick up a whole house. You can't take everything that you own with you because at that point, you're just making it worse for yourself. So whatever you have to do to leave, do that. But I need people to realize that it's not easy at all.
What services are missing for people at this present time?
I think a lot of services are missing. We have only one safe haven in the city of Philadelphia. It's actually one organization with 2 safe havens that only hold 100 people each. So that means if a mom has more than 4 kids, that's 5 spots is being taken up. If a mom has 8 or 9 kids plus herself, that's 10 spots that's taken up. It's really nowhere for these people to go. They end up going to a city shelter where they're treated like regular homeless people with no services to help with their mental state or to help build their self-esteem back up. And so we need services out here for people who want the help. A lot of people really take their time with help because they don't trust people. So they also should be able to go to a place where they can trust you, where they're not going to be judged about their decision or judged about having more than one child. Because most times, a lot of them are pregnant because this is what the abuser wanted, to keep them pregnant, to keep them locked down with a whole bunch of kids where no one would take them in and they would have to stay. So we need resources that will help empower them and uplift them and give them the hope that they need to move past this.
And what are some things that you've done as a now thriver?
as a thriver, I wrote a book that's called We Are Going to Turn This Thing Around. And it starts with how I was born and leads up to this present day. I've been an advocate, like I said, for 27 years. I help run one of the safe havens in the city of Philadelphia. And daily, I encourage women. Daily, I encourage children and now men to look past their abuse and to look forward to healing and to moving forward. I also do counseling at my church to help people know that help is available. And even in the name of religion and in the name of God, you don't have to stay with somebody that is constantly abusing you or constantly putting you down or making you feel less than what you are. You are more than what they say, and you have to dig deep inside of yourself to find that hope and to find that strength to thrive, because it's not easy. And if you've been dealing with it for any number of years, it's going to take a number of years to build that back up, and it doesn't happen overnight. But you have to put it in your heart and your mind that you can survive and that you will thrive through this, because there is life after abuse. It definitely is.